I think the evolution of technology and the evolution of having information at your fingertips, has really changed that whole experience. And I think it comes down to one thing: the patient experience and the patient outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
Physicians today, because of technology, have the ability to better treat, better provide experience for patients than they had 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, by leveraging technology, whether it's their PAC system, whether it's their EMR system or practice management system, they can do things a little bit better. Not even on the just on the way that patient experience, but even on the back end and how billing and how the operation of a physician practice works. So technology has come a very long way from 10 years ago. So AI is a big buzzword, and in healthcare, you're seeing some of that being implemented and being adopted. But on the clinical side, I think it's going to be a little bit different. And I think that it still needs to be proven. But on the operational side of things, it's 1,000% being used today, especially those organizations in the RCM that are doing the billing side of things, and that are tasks that, like in chronic care, where they need to continue to do one task and they need to do it quickly. A lot of the EMR organizations are adopting that technology or advancing and enhancing it so they can provide that automation in the background that they didn't have in the past.
From an MSP standpoint, right? What is it that makes healthcare different in terms of the skill set that they need to bring to the table?
I think understanding the business of healthcare, number one. I think there are a lot of MSPs out there that have clients that are healthcare clients, but I also think there are MSPs out there that are specialists in healthcare that specifically work in the healthcare industry and are MSPs in healthcare. But they focus really in the solutions that are required to be supported and to be implemented and to be managed by strategic partners that are specialists and not generalists.
Yeah.
And that's the differentiation, is understanding optimization of an EMR versus, hey, I have a problem with my EMR. Okay, we'll call the vendor and manage it. That's very different. And I think that practices in this day and age are growing, are much bigger. The onesie twosie docs are very rare, depending on the specialty. But the larger practices that are looking for partnership in an MSP want to see experience and want to see understanding of those types of systems and what to do and where's it going. So if you're saying you're going to be healthcare specific, make sure you can provide that type of support and maintenance and everything else that goes with being a managed service provider in healthcare. If I'm going to compete against another MSP that's a generalist, 9 out of 10 times I'm going to win that business. One, because I have the expertise. Two, because the physicians want to ensure and have a sense of security. Oh, they know healthcare. They have other clients that are in healthcare. Number two, they understand my business of healthcare. So when I sit down a physician, I talk about value-based care and all these different terminologies and understanding where the market is going. We're having a conversation that they know about. So there's value in knowing and being a leader within the MSP space in healthcare. If I'm a generalist MSP today and I want to start a vertical or focused in healthcare, I think it's important that those individuals that are going to be having the conversation with the physicians understand the business first. When I mean the business of healthcare first. So they should have a healthcare background, whether they were selling or providing services as an EMR vendor or a third-party vendor that works with, the administration of that practice. I think that's key. The technology piece is going to be also important, and you're going to have to build a team that has that expertise within those platforms, because healthcare organizations are going to want that expertise, because I think it's changing where, the focus really has been on the run piece of the business. So what I mean by that is day-to-day block, tackle, maintain.
Right.
And then, this is based on Gartner and a recent study. And then they have the grow portion, and then they have the transformation portion. The grow and transformation has the biggest impact on that organization. So there's value back to that client. So there's a return on their investment. Knowing healthcare and helping that organization have the ability to go from generalist to specialist in that vertical is going to be a game changer. If you have that ability to help them transform how they do business, healthcare provider, it's going to make you a lot more stickier than everybody else. So having key partnerships with vendors in the healthcare space that are providing those solutions so that you can bring them to the table is huge. An example, there's a practice that now wants to do patient engagement to have the ability to provide the patient with a better experience, whether it's through using an app so that they can schedule time, or whether it's to check in, to put all the documentation, right? It's a lot easier. But again, I think it's important that you're agnostic.
Yes.
Based on what you're trying to do, Mr. Doctor and Administrator, here are the 3 vendors in the space that have a good fit for you.
Yeah.
I can bring them into the mix and help you in that process of evaluating them. That's where it's impactful, because now you're not just someone that does break fix and support and maintenance. Now you're an organization that's helped them to transform.
The people that the MSP have the conversation with at the client when they're breaking into an account, what level are they? Are they COOs of organizations? Are they some head of IT, or what's their background?
So that's a great question. What I'll tell you is they're not doctors.
Okay.
The physicians focus on what they do best, is providing care. Now, you'll see some physicians that are in those larger groups that take a leadership role, and but that is not the norm.
Right.
The folks that you're going to have conversations with are those C-level executives, those that are making the decisions on technology, whether it's from a day-to-day standpoint or from a grow and transformation standpoint. So it could be a COO, it could be a CFO, it could be the CEO.
Yeah.
Those are the individuals that you're going to have conversations with.
Okay.
As you navigate through this process.
Industries go through secular stages. Some industries are in a cost-cutting mode. Some industries are in a growth mode. Where is healthcare?
I think healthcare is in a growth mode. And I think the market is showing that. If what we're seeing is more consolidation in the space. There's a lot of investment in the consolidation and bringing organizations together. Certain specialties have a bigger focus than others as far as consolidation is concerned. Healthcare has its own challenges, which is, I think is well publicized and everybody knows. So being able to get better healthcare, I think that organizations are conscious of that, and creating these groups, these mega groups, to be able to take advantage of economies of scale and having better contract negotiations with their carriers, with their insurance carriers, is going to make an impact. So I think you're going to continue to see growth there. The challenge that these organizations have is not growth, is scale.
Right.
And MSPs should take advantage of that. If an MSP has a playbook on how to help consolidate an organization that's acquiring, that's very valuable.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. What we've seen and what I was part of is you'll have these large organizations that are acquiring, but they're not fully integrated. They're not they're not being brought into the mix. And we all know that those investment organizations that are acquiring them, ultimately they want them to be efficient.
Yeah. They
don't necessarily always have the resources in order to go through that process. And what we found, and we're seeing an improvement, is they're not making the IT due diligence a priority.
Yeah.
What happens is it happens after the fact.
Yeah.
So when they want to go back, all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, now we got to make an investment of X millions of dollars to get everything back to what the standard of the framework needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that I helped develop as part of a team was a standard in the due diligence process. Mm-hmm. So that if an organization entered into LOI, there would be a technology due diligence, and in that process, we focus in 6 different areas, and then we report, and we would create a very simple report back to the executive team that of the acquiring organization, and say, here are the things that we found, here are the gaps, here's how you bridge those gaps, here's the timeline, and what's they need to get done, here's the priority, and here's the cost associated with it, based on the framework that they have as far as technology is concerned. So we built this framework. Do they fit in? If they don't fit in, how do we get them to that point, whether in time, whether in resource, whether in cost? Now there has to be a strategic plan on from a technology standpoint as to when are we going to start and when we're going to finish, and depending on those priorities, what are the 3 priorities that we need to focus on as we move forward? So that alone, I think, is an opportunity for MSPs. If you're doing it in other areas where you have a playbook, help organizations consolidate. The same applies in healthcare. The difference is there's a lot of intricacies in healthcare to be able to have all these different organizations and the systems that they have integrate. And having a team that really knows how to do that, and you take that away from the internal organization, and it's part of their playbook, is a differentiator. An organization that wants to really get into healthcare and then hasn't, I think it's one of those things that you're going to have to make a true investment if you want to go down that path, whether it's acquiring another organization that already has it, or if you're going to build it. Here's my 2 cents. You're probably better off buying an organization that already has
it,
talent rather than building it. Because if I'm a 10 million organization and I'm going to go and make an investment in building it versus a 10 million organization, I'm going to acquire somebody in doing it, I would probably place my bets on the organization that made that acquisition, that you're going to be able to kind of get there quicker.
What are some of the factors that determine the success of integrations when we think about M&A activity in the healthcare space? What allows that to happen?
Well, there's different, and I talked a little bit about this before, but I think is understanding what that organization, what their thesis is on M&A. So if you're working with a private equity firm that has a focus on let's use ophthalmology as one of them, and they're looking to grow, understand what is their growth plan. So I think you need to align technology with that plan. What are some of the things that they have today that, for example, maybe they're not standardized, for example, on an EMR system or practice management system. What does that timeline look like? You as an MSP, do you have that ability and that expertise to be able to provide, hey, if you need to migrate from all these different EMRs that you have into EMR A, we can provide those services. Right? You need to understand how that dynamic works. Now, not many MSPs have that ability or have that expertise, but that doesn't mean you can't partner with somebody that does. So partnerships are going to be very key in the M&A space, in my opinion, especially when it comes to integration. Because first you have the due diligence side of things that you need to worry about. And then when it comes to the priority of the list of the things that you're going to address, it's important that, can you do it? And if you can't do it, is there a partner that you have them
do it with
in the toolbox in order to do it? My suggestion is make sure you have those partnerships aligned, because I think as an organization that provided these types of services, knowing that you as my partner, MSP partner, you worry about that.
Right.
I want to be able to go to one person, and you can use the term in one throat to choke, or I really believe it's someone that's going to be accountable to take that whole integration process from start to finish, regardless if you're doing 80% of it or if you're only doing 20% of it. You want to be, and I think that organizations that are going through that journey don't know what they need.
Yep.
But once they find it, I will tell you, it makes it very sticky.
Right.
It's going to be very rare that they're going to move to another MSP. So you have due diligence, integration, then management, then the managed services piece, right? It's that whole journey that's going to lead to managed services. What happens when you align yourself with an organization like that? It's what I call the gift that keeps on giving. As they acquire, they're going to bring on more organizations and more people, right? More organizations, more people is added more revenue to you. So I think organizations that are going down that path need to have individuals. We call them VCIOs, change the name, because you're just so much more than that. It's an advisory type of role, not just for as a VCIO, but as a technologist and as a strategist. So you need to have those types of qualities. So having people that could sit with other leaders, C-level type of leaders, to be able to walk them through that process and own part of that roadmap is crucial.
What are some of the key things in healthcare that you see AI playing a big role in, that as an MSP provider I need to be on top of?
I think that you're going to see a lot of the EMR companies today that are the mission critical applications and platforms that healthcare organizations use are going to bring in some type of AI solution into their platforms. That's just happening today. What we're seeing is a lot of these organizations are being very careful in adoption, especially on the clinical side. But I still think that there's elements of AI that can be very beneficial to these organizations. But more importantly, that those decisions need to be made based on the patient experience and then on the outcomes. Today, it's being used. And I think there's a huge value on the diagnostic imaging side of things where, let's use the topic of mammography where, someone goes in for a mammogram, and through the technology, AI has the ability to look at that mammogram and compare it to millions. And say, I see a pattern here that X, Y, and Z based on what I'm seeing here, right? A radiologist can compare to past ones, but nowhere close to that speed, right? I think it's going to be impactful there. But a radiologist and a true professional needs to have the ability to say, I concur or I don't. Same thing with providing any type of other healthcare. I think that's going to be part of it. We're in a day and age where, unfortunately, sometimes it's volume based. How many patients can I see? Which then leads to, on the automation side of what can I automate on the background? That's going to make that process a lot easier. And that's already happening, whether people know it or not, right? There's bots that are being created that's going to automate a lot of these different activities in the background. I think those MSPs that are heavy in healthcare need to really educate themselves. And I would even say, go to the healthcare events like HIMSS or Vive, understand what's going on in the industry as far as technology, and obviously AI being a big buzzword. How is it going to impact your clients? Because if you can bring that as an expert, as a subject matter expert back to that organization and said, hey, I was at HIMSS and I learned X, Y, and Z. What's your plan as far as AI is concerned? Right?
Yes. You
as an individual that's providing services to healthcare need to stay on top of what's exactly happening in the industry so that you could be the subject matter expert back to those clients. Again, we talked about, and I'm going to emphasize this, on the transformational side of providing service to your client, that's transformational. At the same time, I would even say, that many MSPs are adopting, AI solutions and tools in their own ecosystem so that they can provide a better experience for their client base. If you're doing that, let the clients know that you are doing that.
What are the biggest lessons you've learned about building successful MSPs that matter for healthcare? And what advice would you give to MSPs who are looking to expand in this space?
What's the strategy? Are you going to build it? Are you going to acquire it? And I think it goes beyond that as well. If I'm going to acquire it, what's the potential? Like, what's the strategy after that? So having a very well thought out strategy is going to be important. More importantly, can you execute? So having the right people to be able to execute is going to be key. What I've found is, there's MSPs that already have this focus. They have a plan, but they lack an execution because the people that they have today have other responsibilities that they need to focus on, and can't dedicate the time in order for that execution. So if you're going to go down this path, one, make sure that you have a well thought out plan, and two, make sure you have the right people to execute, and three, make sure you have some advice, people that have gone through it that can guide you through that process.
You know what? I'll go out on a limb and say something just based on everything that you're saying. It sounds to me that this is a business where there is tremendous transformational opportunity, but that for you to provide that, you really have to have a clearly thought out strategy, a level of expertise already built in the space where you can bring that value to the client. All things that I think come with scale, right? If you are a smaller MSP and you really haven't started that journey yet, then I think you really have to think about whether that's the right journey for you, or if you want to be in that journey, what way to express it. Maybe you want to be the person who exits at a good multiple, or who has that experience. Then you sell it to that company, you begin to learn from that experience yourself, and then down the road, you can go back and do something else yourself. But that might be the way forward there, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a very accurate analogy, and it's one of I truly believe that there's value in being special, in being a specialist. I really do, and I think what we're seeing is those larger MSPs have certain divisions that are focused on legal, that are focused on fintech, that are focused on healthcare. And when I mean focus, they're focused. Like they know the needs of that client base. They're not just supporting them to support them. Like they're going to be transformational. And those organizations, in my opinion, from a multiple standpoint, are going to outperform anybody else that's the generalist.
And so if you had a $3 million investment today in your MSP, the fundamental question you have to ask is, which is the fastest way to grow it? Should I grow it myself, or should I put it in another stock which is growing at a faster rate?
Yeah, and I think that you may be a $3 million MSP that has a focus in healthcare, and you really want to grow it. The question is, and I have this conversation all the time, do I grow it on my own and wait 2 years and then put it on the market? Or do I sell now, have skin in the game by rolling over some equity, and then growing it with the partner that I have? I'm going to go by facts. Right. Facts are based on my experience, with Medicus and with other organizations that I'm seeing. That timeline is faster if you join a group, because now the value of your organization is going to be growing a lot quicker than if you did it on your own. Let's go through the process. Let's say you grow in 2 years $1 million in EBITDA, which I think you and I know that's depending on the size of the organization. But if you're a $3 million organization, let's say you have the ability to add that, right? And you get that multiple. Is that multiple in 2 years going to be the same as if you're part of another organization that's growing exponentially? The answer is probably no. Right. So it's about being very strategic.
If there's one key message you want your audience to take away from this conversation, your audience is mostly going to be MSPs. What is it going to be?
I think it's for me. I put myself, in my 10 years ago, and wish I had this advice is really understand what the value of your organization is worth, and really understand what your personal wealth is. Your organization, if it is your nest egg, then understand the value that it has, and really define what is it that you want. Don't sell because you need to sell, that because you just feel that the market is the right way to do it. Make sure that it aligns with your values and what you want to do. And understanding if you're going to go through that process, make sure you're aligned. I think alignment is a huge thing, because there's sometimes people get so entrenched in I'm selling, and there might be those details that you're going to miss, or you're going to brush on because you get really excited of the process. Understand what's your role in the new organization. More importantly, if you're going to exit, what are you going to do after? I find many of my colleagues that have gone through the process that I had to, like, okay, what do I do? And have a plan. And it may be that you might have an exit that's after it's sold, that you have to be with the organization a year or two, but really define what makes you happy, right? And that's what you want to be able to do. Hopefully the outcome of that sale will put you in a different position financially, but have a plan of what that legacy plan is going to be of yours moving forward. I was fortunate enough to be surrounded by the right people to be able to provide me with that guidance. So I'm one of the fortunate ones. But have those people around you that help you through this process. If you're thinking about it, you need an advisor. Mm-hmm. You need an advisor. You want to go to bed and lay your head down to rest and not have worries and have the stress. Do it. For me, through my transaction, I partnered with someone, and I knew that I would have to pay him an X amount. But for me, I wanted that peace of mind. And I will tell you that the amount that I ended up paying that organization came back to me because of what they were able to do for me. Mm-hmm. You're an MSP. How many clients have you gone and told you, well, I want to do it this way? And what have you told them? Well, it's not going to work that way. Mm-hmm. So we tend as MSP owners to kind of think that, we kind of know and we can do it on our own. You don't. So it's always important to, and I think it's whether you're a $3 million business or a $20 million business, you need to have the right people to go through that process, right? And have conversation with other MSPs that have gone through that, journey. I'll put my name out there, right? And I'm sure that, I'll get some calls from you guys. It's fine, right? I wish that I had that opportunity too, and the community has been very good to me, like I mentioned. So for those of you who are out there that, hey, Nelson, I'm thinking about this, loved what you did, you can reach me at nelson@portaliagroup.co. I'm sure it'll be down here somewhere. And I'll even, be happy to schedule some time with you. And I'm going to be at IT Nation Grow here in a couple weeks. So grab me. And I'm happy to have that conversation with you guys.
Okay. Nelson, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Can't wait to get you back on the show.
Thank you.